Video relay service has been around for decades, allowing deaf people to place a call using a video phone. They would then be connected with a hearing interpreter who would make an audio call to wherever the customer needed. All of this has been controlled by the FCC, and it is still free to deaf individuals. The VRS companies earn their money from a government determined company who pays the centers per minute. With 6 different VRS companies competing for customers, we rarely see them join together. However, today we sit down with Jeremy Jack, the Vice President of Star VRS, who will be representing all of the 6 VRS providers on the issue we'll be discussing today. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeremy.
Thank you for inviting us to talk with all of you at DHN and taking this opportunity to share our concerns.
Now, Jeremy, from what we can understand, right now it looks like the FCC is in the middle of imposing a 4-year rate reduction. This would mean that every year companies like yours are being paid less per minute.
Yes, that's correct. Now, back in 2013, the FCC decided to release a reform order. In that order, it described how the VRS rates, for how much providers are paid per minute, were going to be cut over the next 4 years.
And can you tell us a little bit about where that decision came from?
Well, in that order, it was also said that the Commission would be taking control of various parts of VRS services. They would take over the Technology Division for Research and Development. The FCC would set up a neutral platform, meaning that thus far, all VRS companies must invest money into new technology. Now they would be able to change their system to the technology the Commission had developed. They also promised to set up a reference platform to review VRS technology and ensure that the systems were compatible with each other. The Commission has plans to create a central user registration database. This would mean that the registration for all VRS users would be kept with one agency. By taking on these roles, the Commission felt VRS providers would not have to pay as much to keep running and cut rates over 4 years. Keep in mind, these programs were their idea.
Well, from an outsider's perspective, this seems like a positive change. If the FCC creates one style of technology for VRS providers, not only will it decrease your costs, but it's also going to help customers. Right now, people with Star VRS might have a difficult time calling someone who uses Convo or Sorensen. So this all just sounds very positive. Why are the 6 of you joined together to go against this ruling?
Well, the biggest concern amongst us VRS providers is that when the FCC released the 2013 reform order and decided to cut our rates and decide how much we are paid, they used an old method, what is referred to as the rate of return. This causes us to be limited in how much we can pay and invest in different things. That also limits our profitabilities. With the method, the commission is able to say, well, let you pay for this, and but not these things. This are all very limiting to VRS companies. By taking over technology, marketing, outreach, it means that VRS companies are, well, like you said, we are usually very competitive. We are all trying to reach the top quickest and see who is the best of the best with the newest tech and the most innovation. When the FCC takes those things over, it limits us. The innovation ceases to continue and we plateau. That can mean that the deaf services do not develop as quickly as hearing services.
Oh, okay. And what have you guys done to try and stop the rates from continuing to be cut over the next 4 years?
Yes, definitely. As a group, all of us VRS providers consulted with our clientele. We first wanted to see what their concerns were and what they needed from VRS. After gathering up their feedback, we discussed things with our interpreters, the ones who worked tirelessly every day accepting and interpreting calls. What were their concerns? What were their needs? Collectively, we chose to write up a proposal to the FCC suggesting that what we would do instead. We asked that they freeze the rate reduction for right now. We wanted them to hold the rates so we could come together and figure out how much VRS companies should be paid per call. What's the appropriate, the best way to decide on that number? Once we've decided on that information, we'd be able to have more stable services going forward.
And is there any recourse that you have if the FCC doesn't follow through on their end of the proposal?
Well, so far, the Commission has yet to provide many of the services they offered in the reform order. For example, technology we can use, a reform platform, technology that works amongst all providers, advertising and outreach, and so many more. It's been 2 years of rate cuts, and yet these options are still not ready. We're still paying for technology, still paying for the advertising and outreach, research and development, all of that stuff. So, if they continue to reduce rates while not fulfilling their commitments, it could lead to things we've seen in other companies. Customer service could decline, quality would be degraded, industry standards would lower. For example, maybe we'd see something like 24/7 customer service lines be reduced to limited hours, or interpreter pay might need to be cut. New innovation and technology could stop altogether or develop at a sluggish pace. All of these things would heavily impact our deaf clients and the services they receive. It would no longer be equivalent to hearing services.
Well, you already answered a little bit of my next question, but I guess what we're all wondering here, and those of you at home who are watching, is what does it mean for us? As a deaf woman, I find myself using VRS on almost a daily basis. How is this going to impact me?
Well, let's imagine that the standards were good and then the quality degrades all of a sudden. That also means that your VRS experience will degrade as well. If we are forced to cut the interpreter's pay, this could lead to some of our best and top interpreters leaving the company. This could lead to quality interpreters not being involved in the VRS industry at all. This means our clients will not have the best interpreters for calls. A wonderful commitment from VRS providers thus far has been to the community. All 6 of us VRS providers have doled out money for a variety of national and state level organizations. We've always paid into sponsorships in a variety of deaf events. Those opportunities can become very limited or even non existent.
Wow, that is a lot of potential for something that seems like really negative impacts from the results of this decision. Is there any spark of hope in this situation? Something the general public can do to force the FCC's hand in regards to what they're doing?
Oh, yes, for sure. We have already seen all 6 VRS providers, the major consumer groups, and other national groups like RID, interpreting agencies, and VRSCA have all come together. We've collectively proposed a variety of concerns to the FCC. However, just because large organizations have done all this, it doesn't mean that you can't propose something too. Deaf consumers can share their concerns about the rate cuts. If you like, call the FCC directly and sign with them about what you're concerned about. You can call 844-432-2275. They're available anytime.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion and bringing light to such a monumental issue.
Oh, you're very welcome. We are happy to interview about all of our concerns.
The next VRS rate cut is expected to begin on July 1st. Thus far, there has been no indication that the FCC will stop the cuts or continue to develop the programs we mentioned earlier. You can learn more about this issue by following your video relay service provider as they release more updates.